Western media portrays Australia as a beautiful nation with independent people and a close ally of the United States. But the American empire has no allies, only vassal states. Australia became a colony of the American empire in 1975 after an Anglo-American coup. Australians noticed nothing since Australia had been a British colony since its inception and dispatches military forces when ordered to fight empire wars. Thousands of Australians were slaughtered in pointless operations during World War I, like the incompetent British landing at Gallipoli. During the 1920s, Australia was officially granted independence, but the British maintained control. During World War II, thousands of Australians perished in battles in the African desert, and this blind support for the British Empire led to war with Japan that killed thousands more Australians. Australians were ordered to support the empire wars in Korea, Malaysia, and Vietnam, where thousands more died. The Australian people eventually realized these wars were not in their interest. They protested involvement in Vietnam and elected an independent government in 1972 with Gough Whitlam as Prime Minister. He denounced the Vietnam War and withdrew Australian soldiers. Whitlam shifted Australia towards the non-aligned movement, denounced nuclear weapons, and questioned the need for American military bases in his nation. On November 11, 1975, the day Whitlam was to inform Parliament about secret American CIA operations in Australia, he was summoned by the representative of the British Queen in Australia, Governor-General Sir John Kerr, pictured, and fired. The role of the Governor-General in Australia is considered primarily ceremonial. While the Governor-General has a wide range of powers, they were only supposed to be used with the consent of the Australian Parliament. Kerr invoked reserve powers of the Queen to fire the democratically elected Prime Minister of Australia. Since this legality was dubious, supportive Australian generals deployed the Australian Army to guard railways to control unrest. As the recently released Palace Letters confirmed, the American CIA was behind this coup to oust Whitlam. See the article's link below for details. During the Obama administration's China pivot, another prime minister upset the American empire. Kevin Rudd was not enthusiastic about agitating China, Australia's largest trading partner, simply because China's growth threatened American dominance in the Western Pacific. Secret diplomatic cables published by WikiLeaks in December 2010 revealed that the Americans plotted his ouster with the help of Senators Mark Arbib and David Feeney, and Australian Workers' Union Chief Paul Howes. They secretly provided the U.S. Embassy with regular updates on internal government discussions and divisions and promoted the American plan to replace Rudd. The Americans chose compliant Julia Gillard as Prime Minister in 2010, pictured here with American Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. She had boosted her career through Australian-American-Israel leadership forums, so was selected by the Americans as a reliable replacement. On her first day as Prime Minister, Gillard reassured U.S. President Barack Obama of Australia's continuing support for the occupation of Afghanistan, where 1,550 Australian troops were based, which was then in its 9th year of operation. She enthusiastically supported Clinton's destruction of Libya in 2011 and granted the American military access to any base it desired. The American military now uses all major Australian training areas, northern Australian airfields, and port facilities at Darwin and Fremantle. There are now 2,500 American Marines based at Darwin, along with aircraft. The Australian military is integrated to the point where it can no longer conduct major operations without American support. The secret American facility at Pine Gap in Central Australia plays a vital role in strategic nuclear targeting and intelligence gathering against Russia and China. The Americans record all Australian phone calls and emails from facilities at Watsonia near Melbourne, Geraldton, Shoal Bay, and Canberra. Australian politics, intelligence agencies, military, and much of its media are now integrated into America's imperial plans. Australian politicians join Americans to constantly denounce actions by China. As a result, China now seeks alternative suppliers like Russia for its import needs. This harms the Australian economy, and any war with China ensures Australian participation. Australian political leaders support American policies to protect themselves from proven American treachery. This was explained in 2019 by American political analyst Professor John Mearsheimer at a debate hosted by an Australian think tank. He warned the audience that the United States will do everything it can to prevent China from becoming a superpower, and Australia must sacrifice prosperity to support this effort or will face retaliation from the American empire.
Now, the question is, what does this all mean for Australia? You're in a quandary for sure. Everybody knows what the quandary is. Security-wise, you really want to go with us. It makes just a lot more sense, right? And you understand that security is more important than prosperity, because if you don't survive, you're not going to prosper. Survival is of the utmost importance because you can't pursue any other goals if you don't survive, right? So security's got to be number one. So you'll sacrifice prosperity for security, right? That's what will happen. That's why you'll be with us. Now, some people say there's an alternative. You can go with China, right? You have a choice here. You can go with China rather than the United States. There's two things I'll say about that. Number one, if you go with China, you want to understand you are our enemy. You are then deciding to become an enemy of the United States. Because we're talking about an intense security competition. You're either with us or against us. And if you're trading extensively with China and you're friendly with China, you're undermining the United States in this security competition. You're feeding the beast from our perspective. And that is not going to make us happy. And when we are not happy, you do not want to underestimate how nasty we can be. Right? Just ask Fidel Castro.